In the middle of the crowded schoolyard, a furious father shouted, "Who gave you the right to keep my son overnight?" Phones were raised everywhere, recording. The teacher stood firm, shielding the trembling boy behind her. "I will not let him be hurt right in front of me." There was no applause. Instead, the next morning, she was suspended. A teacher punished for doing the right thing? Monday morning. The halls of Jefferson Elementary buzzed with the sound of kids rushing into class. Sneakers slapped against the tile floor. Laughter bounced off the walls. Danielle Harris stood at her doorway, clutching a stack of textbooks to her chest, greeting each child with her usual warm smile. In the middle of the chaos, Jayden Miller walked in. A gray hoodie zipped tight to his neck, backpack straps clutched in white knuckles. Outside, the sun blazed. The air was warm, but sweat dotted his forehead. A classmate brushed past and bumped his shoulder. Jayden flinched, spun around wide-eyed, then dropped his gaze to the floor. Danielle froze. "Jayden, are you okay, sweetie?" He gave the faintest nod, slipped into the classroom, avoiding her eyes. Danielle wanted to stop him, to press further, but the reminder echoed in her head, "Let social services handle it." That's the protocol. She stood still, watching the gray hoodie disappear behind the rows of desks. Just a few seconds, but something cold settled deep inside her chest. By lunch break, the teacher's lounge was unusually quiet. Danielle sat at her desk, filling out a suspected child abuse report for the school social worker, Marisol Vega. She wrote down every detail from that morning, even the look of panic in Jayden's eyes. Click, send. An hour later, the response pinged back. "Insufficient evidence. Need photos or direct witnesses." Danielle read it twice. Photos? She pictured herself pointing a camera at a trembling child. Unthinkable. Outside, the schoolyard glowed in the afternoon sun. Inside, her chest felt like it carried a storm. Protocols, by the time they kick in, it might already be too late. That afternoon, rain came without warning. The classroom emptied except for Jayden, curled at his desk, eyes rimmed red. Danielle knelt beside him. "Why aren't you heading home, Jayden?" He bit his lip, voice barely a whisper. I don't want to go home tonight." Her heart dropped. She called Marisol. She called the Child Protection Hotline. Busy lines, endless menus, protocols spinning like a locked door. Thunder rattled the windows. Danielle checked the clock, checked Jayden. Just one moment of decision and she crossed the line. "You can stay here tonight." She grabbed a blanket from the nurse's office, poured him hot cocoa. Jayden curled up on the couch, slowly drifting to sleep. Danielle sat nearby, listening to the rain hammer the roof. And in that moment, she knew she'd stepped past the boundary. The next morning dawned bright. Danielle brought Jayden to Marisol's office before the first bell rang. He stayed quiet, gripping his backpack straps. The phone on the secretary's desk rang. "Ms. Harris, Principal Benton would like to see you right away." In his office, harsh light spilled across a yellow file folder. Benton didn't meet her eyes. "You realize what you did was a serious violation?" Danielle steadied her voice. "I did it to keep a student safe. Last night, rules are rules," he cut in. "Teachers are not authorized to keep students overnight. Period." The words slammed shut, any space for reason. Danielle walked out, hearing the echo of children laughing in the halls, laughter that now sounded like it came from another world, a world where compassion only counted if it came with paperwork. That afternoon, the secretary placed a white envelope on her desk. 10-day suspension. Danielle folded the letter, slipped it into her bag. Colleagues glanced her way, then quickly looked busy. No one reached out. No one said a word. Just the steady whir of the photocopier filling the silence. 3 days later, the disciplinary hearing began over Zoom. 4 faces in 4 boxes. Legal, HR, administrators. The man in glasses opened. "We understand your concerns, but we cannot set a precedent." Danielle stared into the camera. "And what if I'd sent him home that night? What then?" Silence. Then a woman's voice, flat as a wall. "All cases must go through the hotline with parental or agency confirmation." They spoke like statutes given human form. No one asked how Jayden was doing. When the call ended, the screen went black. Danielle sat frozen, knowing the truth. If everything depends on protocol, Jayden will never be protected in time. Friday afternoon. Danielle stopped by Marisol's office with paperwork. The door was ajar. Jayden sat hunched over, twisting his hands. Marisol asked something. He didn't answer. Then quietly, he pulled a paper from his backpack and slid it across the table. Danielle caught a glimpse. A rough drawing of a dark house, windows shut, a shadow holding a belt. In the corner, a small figure curled tight. Marisol's eyes lifted, locking briefly with Danielle's. No words needed, she understood. Danielle's chest clenched. The stormy night replayed in her mind. Jayden's terrified eyes, the weight of what he'd been living with. Walking back down the hall, children's laughter rang from the playground. To Danielle, it sounded sharp, mocking. Mocking the adults who believed family matters weren't theirs to intervene in. She promised herself she wouldn't let that drawing get buried in a file. That night, scrolling through the local community page, Danielle froze. The cover photo showed Jefferson Elementary under the sun. The caption read, "Teacher Danielle Harris once paid for students' lunches when they couldn't. This week she was suspended for letting a child stay overnight. I don't know all the details, but I believe she saved someone." Comments poured beneath it. She's the kind of teacher kids need. Without her, that boy would have been in danger. Rules exist for a reason. You can't just ignore them. If that were my child, I'd thank her forever. She broke policy. End of story. One short comment hit hardest. A child afraid to go home is never something you ignore. Danielle read every line, feeling like she stood in a crowded room, everyone talking, nobody looking her in the eye. Monday afternoon. The schoolyard buzzed with parents calling their kids, car engines humming in the heat. Even suspended, Danielle had stopped by to drop off files for Marisol. A harsh voice came from behind. "Who do you think you are, keeping my kid overnight?" Trevor Lane, Jayden's stepfather, stormed forward, face red. Danielle turned, voice calm. "I only wanted to keep him safe." He stepped closer, breath heavy with smoke. "Safe? Don't stick your nose in my family." A few feet away, Jayden stood frozen, clutching his backpack straps. Danielle didn't back down. "I will not let him be hurt in front of me." Parents turned, phones lifted, the air thickened. Marisol rushed in, pulling Jayden toward her office. Trevor cursed, spun away, leaving behind a ripple of murmurs across the yard. Danielle knew this scene would hit the internet by nightfall, and once it did, it would grow bigger than any closed-door meeting with the principal. That evening, as Danielle tidied her living room, her phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from colleagues, a link. She tapped. The video played 47 seconds. Shaky phone footage from the schoolyard. Trevor advancing, voice raised. Danielle standing firm between him and Jayden. Over the noise, her words rang clear. "I will not let him be hurt in front of me." The clip ended. Comments scrolled like a flood. That's what a real teacher looks like. What kind of stepdad threatens a kid at school? Don't jump to conclusions. We don't know the whole story. Danielle set the phone down. That moment in the video, she hadn't thought of cameras or rules or public opinion. Only Jayden. Now, though, one thing was certain. The story was no longer hidden in files and policies. It was out in the open, and the image of her standing between Jayden and his abuser wasn't going anywhere. 2 days later, a text buzzed on Danielle's phone from an unknown number. "This is Olivia Park, reporter with the local station. I'd like to hear the story from you directly." They met at a cafe near the school. Olivia set a recorder on the table, her voice calm but cutting. "Can you walk me through that night?" Danielle hesitated, then spoke. "No embellishments, no dramatics, just the facts." Olivia listened closely, nodding now and then. That evening, the news aired a short segment. Danielle's interview ran alongside shots of a classroom, the schoolyard, and a single gray hoodie hanging on the back of a chair. The anchor closed. Councilwoman Brenda Cole has called for an investigation into the suspension decision. Brenda appeared on screen in a navy blazer, speaking firmly, "We must protect teachers when they're protecting children. Otherwise, we're sending the wrong message to the community." Danielle sat in her living room, TV light flickering across her face. She hadn't sought attention, but now her choice was part of a bigger fight. And this time, she wasn't standing alone. A week after the video spread online, a CPS vehicle pulled up in front of Jefferson Elementary. Inside the principal's office, tension thickened the air. 2 CPS officers sat across from Benton, Marisol and Danielle. A stack of files on Jayden lay between them, neat on the surface, but heavy with meaning. The officer with graying hair spoke first, his voice steady. We've interviewed the child. There are signs of ongoing emotional abuse and threats of physical harm. Danielle froze. Each word untied a knot she'd carried in her chest. If he hadn't stayed at school that night, the officer continued, the situation could have been far worse. Benton stayed silent, drumming his fingers on the table. Marisol glanced at Danielle, eyes weary but relieved. The meeting ended. Danielle stepped into the hall. From a nearby classroom came the clear, innocent sound of children reading aloud. To her, it was the sound of a quiet victory. No fireworks, no applause, just a deep breath and the certainty that her decision in that storm had been the right one. 3 days later, Benton called her in. On his desk lay a single sheet, suspension rescinded, return to duty. He read the statement in a practiced tone. The school regrets the misunderstanding and looks forward to your return. Danielle folded the paper, slipped it into her bag. No response. She knew it wasn't recognition, just damage control. Benton's handshake was as cold as the words. But in the hallway, a few students spotted her, smiling and waving. Their eyes, that was what mattered. Not stamps, not signatures. A month later, the district's press room glowed with cameras. Behind the podium, a banner read, Overnight Safety Protocol. The spokesperson outlined the new rules. Teachers could keep a child overnight in emergencies with direct hotlines to CPS and local police. Danielle sat in the back row. No one mentioned her name, but every line on that policy was born from that stormy night. Across the room, Olivia Park gave her a small nod. Councilwoman Cole spoke into the cameras. Children's safety must come before rules. Danielle didn't step up to the podium. No flowers, no applause. A new policy wouldn't fix everything, but at least it was a start. Late one afternoon, sunlight spilled across her classroom. Danielle stood at the board, teaching her students about safety signals, how to recognize danger, how to find a trusted adult. Jayden sat in the front row, doodling a small flower in the corner of his notebook. When their eyes met, he gave her a faint smile. If you ever feel afraid, Danielle told the class, remember, there will always be someone ready to listen and protect you, even if it means breaking a rule or two. The dismissal bell rang. Kids spilled into the playground, laughter echoing through the halls. Danielle watched them go, feeling she had just planted a seed, something that would grow in ways she couldn't predict, but believed would be good. The hallway quieted. She tidied desks and stacked books. On the back of a chair by the window, the gray hoodie still hung. She walked over, brushing the fabric lightly. It no longer carried the heaviness of that first morning-only relief. Outside, the sunset washed the schoolyard in gold. Children's laughter drifted on the breeze. Danielle switched off the lights and stood in the doorway for a long moment. She didn't need recognition. What mattered was that Jayden was safe. And someday, he would know someone had chosen to stand by him, no matter the paperwork or the rules. She stepped out and closed the classroom door. The gray hoodie stayed behind, hanging quietly. A pause, a reminder. Holding the weight of a battle only those who lived it could truly understand.